Biking across the country is no easy feat. It's not the type of thing that's everybody's cup of tea. But whether you're the most hardcore cyclist or a new rider that's become serious, a cross-country trip is built largely on one thing: good preparation. For me, a huge part of that was the resources from Adventure Cycling Association. They're the guys who make the bike maps for trans-American trips. Their story is one that speaks true to what it takes to be an entrepreneur. It's about having those crazy ideas, the type of idea that comes to you when you lay awake at night, and persistently driving those ideas until they become realities.
It started off with a really interesting story of two couples who did an amazing bicycle trip from the state of Alaska to the tip of South America.
Wow.
And so on that journey, those two couples brainstormed an amazing idea of creating a bicycle route across the United States. And from there is where Adventure Cycling Association starts. 1976, and the Bicentennial was coming up. They started this word play on words, and they thought, oh, we should create this Bikecentennial, and we'll create this tour across the United States. Dan Burton, unfortunately, became ill about halfway down on that trip, and he needed to come back to the States, and he was able to get the ball rolling. So sending out postcards, posters, any kind of information to all bicycle clubs, bike groups, bike shops, anything possible, letting them know about this route that we were going to ride across the United States called the Trans Am. So Virginia to Astoria, Oregon. So, and that said, in 1976, 4,000 people signed up to do this trip across the United States. People who jumped on board just because they saw this coming through their town.
Sure.
So then as far as the organization goes, it was quite interesting because what had happened is we had done this big event, and then it was like, well, do we do this again? Or, I mean, where does this go from here, you know? So the organization almost completely folded. I mean, it just like, you know.
It was just a spontaneous.
It was a spontaneous, we didn't know what to do.
Volunteer kind of, let's do this
But
ride.
so many people had heard about it and read about it. And so then we just started getting inundated with phone calls on how do I get the routes? How do I get the maps? How do I find the places to stay? And that's where we thought, okay, we need to map this out and start building this, you know. And so from there, it went from one route, the Trans Am, all the way to now we're up over 50,000 miles of bicycle routes across the United States.
And I've taken a few of those.
Yeah. So it has grown,
Yeah.
definitely. Then we list all of the camping, phone numbers, emergency contacts, library numbers, and all the services that a traveling cyclist would use. So, along with these routes that we've created for bicycle touring, we're also working with all the different states and their Department of Transportations. So working with those engineers as they're planning roads, planning bridges, how can we help them to make safer roads with larger shoulders or rumble strips that are only 12 inches wide instead of the entire shoulder, you know, it's all those kind of things. So it's just been really, really great. And a lot of states are really jumping on board in creating this entire network to eventually you'll be able to ride in any state in the United States and connect on a bike. Every summer we get hundreds of riders that come through, and you can see on this wall here, cyclists stop through Adventure Cycling, and I would say 95% of these people each summer are doing the Trans Am. They're either on their way to Virginia or Oregon. We usually get anywhere from 1,100 to 1,300 riders through every summer.
And I think it's a good example, again, of we think of entrepreneurial companies often as just for-profit companies, but obviously entrepreneurial spirit resides in many, many different ways, including nonprofits. And this is a really good example of one who's really done a great service for people like me who have a passion for bicycling.